Hello everyone, wishing you all good health and peace in life. Just when peace seemed within reach, when the new house was nearly complete, a symbol of healing, of hope, of a new beginning, the past returned. Her ex-husband, the name she had tried to forget, the shadow she thought she had already left behind. Now here he was again, bringing trouble to the doorstep of her almost finished happiness. What will lie to Diep and CEO James do? Will love be strong enough to protect what they've built together? Or will old wounds open again in the most fragile moment? Sometimes the past doesn't knock, it crashes in uninvited. But this time, too Diep is no longer the woman who breaks easily. And beside her stands James, a man ready to fight, not for pride, but for the woman he chose with his whole heart. The sun bathed the hills in a golden hue as Lyda Diep walked barefoot through the rows of fresh vegetables. Her hands were slightly stained with soil, but her heart felt light. The new wooden house that she and James, the CEO she had grown to love, had almost completed stood proudly at the edge of the field. It was a symbol of their new beginning, a place of healing, growth, and dreams taking root. James had spared no effort in building it. He had found local builders, chosen sustainable materials, and even had a team design the house with minimal use of nails, just wooden joints. Tight and flawless, everything was going smoothly until he returned. Pow, the ex-husband, the shadow from a past she had long let go. Pow had changed, or at least, that's what he said. No longer the drunkard she once knew. He claimed to have quit drinking, moved to the mountains, and wanted to start over. Their encounter at the roadside had seemed innocent enough. He helped her carry produce. He offered kind words, but James, watching them from afar, couldn't ignore the uneasy feeling in his gut. At first, James tried to stay calm. He was not a man driven by jealousy, but by reason. Yet something about the way Pow lingered around Diep made him wary. One evening, as the workers packed up and the house stood just days away from being finished, strange things began happening. Wood supplies went missing, tools were scattered, nails unscrewed. One morning, the design blueprint James kept on his desk had vanished. "Are you sure it wasn't just misplaced?" Diep asked gently. James stared at the empty desk. "No, someone took it." He didn't want to accuse Pow without proof. But then Lynn, the project manager, came with a piece of news. "A man came asking for your blueprint. Said he was your friend. Said he used to live with Miss Diep." That was it. The line had been crossed. James confronted Pow near the old roadside tea shop, where they'd once exchanged polite nods. But this time, the air was thick. "I don't want trouble, James," Pow said, eyes sharp. "But I built a life with her before you ever knew her." "You destroyed that life yourself," James replied. "Now she's building something new. Let her." But Pow didn't walk away. "What if I told you that house sits on land that should have been mine?" The claim shocked James. He began an investigation and found that Pow's family had once owned a small strip of land at the edge of the farm where the new house now stood. It had been sold decades ago under unclear conditions. Suddenly, their dream home became a battleground. Lawyers were called, papers were reviewed. Diep watched helplessly as the house she helped plan turned into a war zone of past and present. "I thought this was over," she whispered one night to James. "I thought he was gone. He was, James said, holding her hand. But now he's back because he sees something worth ruining. What will they do? Instead of crumbling, James and Diep stood stronger. They decided to negotiate but never surrender. Diep met Pao alone under the old guava tree where they once planted seeds together, both literal and emotional. "You say you've changed," she said. "Then prove it. Walk away from bitterness. Let us build something peaceful here." Surprisingly, Pao looked down. His voice cracked. "I never came for revenge. I just didn't want to be forgotten." She paused. "You won't be, but that chapter is closed, and I need you to let me live now." Epilogue: A House of Peace. Weeks later, the house stood complete. Not only a place to live, but a place of stories, struggles, and healing. James had reinforced the boundaries both legally and emotionally. Pao had signed a document, relinquishing any claim to the land. And Diep, she stood on the porch, holding James's hand, watching the sunset melt into the trees. "You know," she said softly, "a house built with love is stronger than one built with nails." James smiled. "Then ours will last forever." Chapter 2: A Storm Brewing. The air had changed. Though the house was finished and Pao had signed away any legal claim, something in the wind felt unsettled. James noticed it first. Workers who had once greeted him warmly now seemed hesitant, whispering in corners. Lin, the project manager, received a strange letter and signed with only one line written in red ink. "Not all debts are written on paper." James tightened security around the property. He wasn't a man prone to fear, but something told him this wasn't over. Meanwhile, Diep tried to remain calm. She spent her days tending the garden, restoring the rhythm of peace. But even she couldn't ignore the unease that seeped into the walls of their wooden home. One night, a rock shattered their front window. Chapter 3: The Past Never Dies Quietly. They found it the next morning wrapped in cloth. Hidden beneath shards of glass, a photograph, torn, faded, but unmistakable. It was a picture of Pao and Diep from years ago. The back was scribbled with words in angry handwriting. "She was mine. You took everything. I'll take it back." Diep turned pale. "He said he let go," she whispered. "He promised." James clenched the photo. "It's not about you anymore. It's about control." They had to act fast. Chapter 4: The Trap. James made a plan. With Lin's help and quiet backing from a local official who owed him a favor, they set a trap. A fake notice was sent to Pao. "James will be out of town for 3 days." The workers left the house unattended. At night, the lights were dimmed, but James and Lin waited in the shadows, cameras installed, their phones ready. It didn't take long. The second night, a figure crept through the trees, slowly, steadily, toward the house. He carried a jerrycan. "Gasoline." Lin moved. James stopped him. "Wait," he whispered. "Let him strike first." The man lit a match. That was it. Police swarmed from both sides. Pao froze, eyes wide as the blue lights flashed through the woods. He didn't resist. He only looked up at the house one last time. Chapter 5: A Quiet Dawn. The next morning, the sun rose peacefully over the house. James stood at the porch, coffee in hand. Diep came beside him, eyes still tired from the restless night. "He won't be coming back," James said. "Not in this life," she replied softly. Pao had been taken in charge with attempted arson, trespassing, and violating his agreement. But more than that, he had finally lost the last piece of control he thought he had. Chapter 6. Healing for Real. Weeks passed. The house no longer felt tense. The garden bloomed again. Workers returned with smiles. Local villagers came to see the wooden home that had survived both nature and man. James, now even more protective of what he had, took it slow with Diep. He didn't push her to marry. He didn't demand more than she could give. But one evening, under the soft glow of paper lanterns and the scent of blooming jasmine, Diep took his hand and said, "You built me a home, James. Not just a house, a place where I can breathe." He looked at her, eyes filled with a quiet fire. "Then live here with me, as long as you want." She nodded. And in the silence that followed, the ghosts of the past finally faded, leaving nothing but the sound of wind moving through wooden beams and the beating of two steady hearts. Life lesson. Healing begins when we let go of the past. In life, we all carry scars, some visible, some hidden deep in our hearts. The story of Diep, her new life with CEO James, and the unexpected return of her ex-husband Pao teaches us one powerful truth: we cannot build a future if we are still chained to the past. Diep had worked hard to move on from a broken relationship. She chose peace, simplicity, and honesty. She didn't ask for luxury, only a space to grow, to love again, and to feel safe. With James, she found those things. Their new wooden house wasn't just a building, it was a symbol of a new beginning. It represented trust, commitment, and the courage to hope again.
But the past has a way of testing us. When Pao reappeared, it became clear that not everyone heals in the same way. Some people carry bitterness instead of learning from pain. Pao could not accept that Diep had moved on. He allowed jealousy and regret to cloud his actions, choosing destruction over redemption.
This story reminds us that true healing requires release. Holding onto old wounds, blame, or the desire to control others only leads to more suffering. We cannot rewrite the past, but we can choose how we respond to it. James 2 teaches us a vital lesson: love must protect, not possess. He never forced Diep to choose. He respected her decisions, supported her quietly, and defended her without pride. His strength was not loud, it was steady and wise. And in the end, that steady love built something far stronger than bricks or wood: trust. In our own lives, we may face people like Pao, those who reappear not to reconnect, but to reopen old wounds. We may be tempted to fight fire with fire, but the wiser path is not revenge, it is clarity, firm boundaries, and courageous forgiveness. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pain. It means planting new seeds in fresh soil rather than trying to revive what has already withered. Diep's journey shows us that no matter how dark the past, the future is always waiting if we're brave enough to walk toward it and kind enough to let others go.